selling point, which is the 79 from last week, and the structure point was here. If you look at the structure point was the 79.53. We broke below it, so it gave us about 100 pips to the downside below that structure point. But what do we see here? This here is very profound. This here is something that's very important. And what I want you to see is this. Look at this chart. The dollar is capitulating against the yen. But if you look at the euro yen, it is moving up. Look at the pound yen. It is moving up. It is still inside day. It is still giving us a buy. If you look at the Aussie yen, it is still negative. If you look at the CAD yen, it's still on a sell. If you look at the Swiss yen, it's still on a sell. So I have a sell signal in the Swiss yen, a sell signal in the CAD yen, a sell signal in the Aussie yen, a sell signal in the dollar yen, but I have a buy signal in the pound yen and a buy signal in the euro yen. Does this make sense? It actually does not. All what this says to us is that due to the events that was happening in Greece over the weekend and the fear of the election, and of course the close proximity of the pound to the euro, we had a serious short covering coming into the euro and into the pound, and that what gave us this, if you want to call it, that knee-jerk reaction that we had in the pound and the euro yen. Therefore, literally, even though we picked up these points in the euro yen and in the pound yen, actually our bias should be more towards the short side in the pound than it is to the long side in the pound yen than it is to the short side. The same thing with the euro yen. And the chart, the daily chart, is the telltale for this. So what we're going to do with the dollar yen, again, we had this major capitulation to the downside. We need verification now that this thing is going to continue down. So since I had this big range in the pound, in the dollar yen, and I have conflicting information. I have the euro moving higher versus the yen. I have the pound moving explosively higher versus the yen. I want to make sure that this continues in the way it. I need to get verification which is right. Is the dollar yen right or the pound yen right? The pound yen says buy the pound, short the yen. The dollar yen says buy the yen, sell the dollar. So I need something to tell me which way is the right way. And in this case, I would look for a continuation below the low of the day. So I'm going to sell the pound yen on a trade below, the dollar yen on a trade below the 78.60. And I have a structure point from last week. It remains the same, the 78.20 is still my structure point from last week, so I'm going to leave it there. And if I go short below the 78.60, my stop is going to be the 78. I mean, my stop last week was the 78.70. I'm just going to give it an additional 10 pips, which is the 78.80, right as the market side. That is shorting the dollar yen. Now to buy it, I need a place to buy this, because if it's going to continue into that short covering rally, I can see that the low of the day was put early in the morning and then later on it has failed. So the 78.80 here could be construed as a minor, minuscule kind of a structure that would lead to some short covering rally, because we had a failure to make here a low. So I'm going to look at the 78.80 just again because I have a short covering rally in the pound yen and the euro yen, so it might follow suit. So I want to pick an early entry. Usually I would pick a conservative entry and buy it above the 79.16, but since I have this big explosive moves, it might begin to, I see the chasing happen. So the first sign of the chasing would be above the 78.80. And if I buy it above 78.80, my stop is going to be the 78.60, which is the low of the day. So I'm just going to put it below the low of the day, the 78.60, exactly. And my structural long point in this case is going to be the 79. Exactly, Gavin. So I'm going to be buying the dollar yen above 78.80. If I do, I have a structural long point at 79, which is right there, which is in the green, and my stop is going to be the 78.60. I'm risking 20 pips on that trade. On the short side, I'm going to go short below 78.60, which is the low of the day, and I'm using 20 pips, which is the 78.80, and I have a structural short point, which is the 78.20, which is the one over here, below where the market has stopped before. Okay, that is the dollar yen. Let me save that.